Quiet. Okay. Hi. Hi, I'm William.
And I'm Hannah.
And this is Good Eats, Bad Flicks, where we cook and talk about a really bad movie.
Which, I mean, I'm sure most of you do on a typical Tuesday night, or if you're super romantic on Valentine's Day. But here we like to make it super special by putting it on the internet.
Yeah, because nobody does that, right? Nobody has internet shows, so that's what makes us really unique.
We're so
special.
Original.
Absolutely, cool. Well, Hannah, do you want to talk about what movie we're watching today, or should I?
Oh God, I would love to talk about what movie we're talking about today because it is a movie that I think should be more well known for all of the reasons that it wasn't meant to be known for. And the movie we're watching today is called Triassic Attack.
Triassic Attack is a movie about a small community in Oregon that gets attacked by reanimated dinosaur bones conjured by Native American magic. Because the capitalist white man is bad.
Okay, I know this is tough, but this isn't our fight.
Look, if you side with the elite, you side with evil.
Do I look elite? Do I?
Look, get out of here!
I'm not your enemy, pal. I'm just doing my job.
Land. Off our land!
Sort of. It's a university
Yeah.
who wants to dig up this town to increase the size of the campus. So,
Which is supposed to be better, according to the evil British man who is orchestrating the whole thing. Are the British evil? Is that why he's British? Or is this just, he's an actor?
if you watch any B movie, 9 times out of 10, the British guy will be evil.
I guess so.
Well, technically speaking, this is now university land, so they're trespassing. It's a little heavy-handed, don't you think? Arrest them, shoot them, just get them off our land.
So, we're gonna talk about the movie we watched, which is Triassic Attack. Obviously, it's about dinosaur bones. So we thought the meal we would make tonight would be a delectable ham bone soup. And I know ham bone soup sounds a little weird, so I'll explain a little bit about what it is to you. Ham bone soup is a bone-based broth, which we've already got started on the oven here. The bone-based broth basically means that I went and bought a ham bone, which still had some meat on it, and I let it boil for, I guess, about 2 hours now. I would say the minimum amount of time you can cook this for, let it boil for, is about 45 minutes. I've left them on overnight on simmer, and they turned out really well as well. So it's a bone-based broth, which then is enhanced by what can be done 2 ways. The typical way that you see people do it is what's called dump soup, and that means they're going to take a ton of vegetables from cans and they're going to dump them into the soup and let it just kind of simmer for a few hours, 30, 45 minutes-ish, and then serve it. But we're going to do it a little different in the sense that we are going to use fresh ingredients, which I believe is very important when cooking. I think it enhances the flavor, and I think it just makes you feel better, which after watching a terrible movie, you kind of need to feel better.
I do not recommend going into this movie, or really any bad movie, with a poor diet. I think that, yeah, like you said, the fresher ingredients, the better. So.
Absolutely. So to start off with, I'm going to go over the ingredients real quick. So the first thing we're going to be using is about a half a teaspoon of garlic salt. This is going to flavor the whole meal. It's going to be the most sodium we put into it, apart from anything that came out of a can. And we do have 2 items that came out of a can. The second thing we're going to add is Italian seasoning. Italian seasoning is going to be amazing because it's going to have a couple of spices that you would want to use, but it's all going to be packed into one container. The Italian seasoning is going to have your parsley, your oregano, your rosemary, and a little bit of thyme. So Simon and Garfunkel approves. The next thing we're going to use is Creole seasoning. The Creole seasoning is going to give it a little bit of spice. Not lie to you, there's going to be sodium in that as well. So if you're heart conscious, please maybe use cayenne pepper instead of Creole seasoning. But the Creole seasoning, we're going to salt or use that to taste. We're going to season that to taste. And then for our fresh ingredients, we're going to be using mushrooms, carrots, TriColored carrots. So we're going to be using purple, yellow, and orange. We're going to be using French cut fresh green beans, Medley potatoes. So those are going to be purple, red, and white potatoes. And then our only 2 canned ingredients, and this is purely because I'm lazy, is whole kernel corn and stewed tomatoes. So what we'll do to get started is I'm gonna get you peeling some carrots here.
Okay. Almost got myself there.
Be careful when you're cutting so that you don't do what William just did.
I lead by example. You're actually supposed to take your knuckles and kind of like line that up with the blade. But I have this thing where I can't spell dexterity, and
why don't you tell a little bit about what the credits open up to?
Our movie starts after our characters have been running from a what appears to be a raptor holding a GoPro. We go to our opening credits, which are moving at what I would describe to be a brisk pace, kind of like when you see an X at a grocery store, you just try to get out of there as quick as possible. The credits move at that brisk of a pace. You barely have time to read any of the names that show up on there. So you cut the meat off there?
Mm-hmm. Just the way it's going to work is your ham bone is going to look a little like this, not appetizing at this stage.
I think it looks pretty good.
It's honestly just I went to Honey Baked Ham. Picked up a ham bone from the freezer section, cut off all of the larger chunks, saved them to make sandwiches because who doesn't love a good soup and sandwich? Yeah. And then threw this in the pot with some olive oil and some onions and garlic, which I sweated down. Yet you may notice there are some fattier places in here.
That's the good stuff. So, going back to the movie, after we have the credits just breeze on through, we cut to 24 hours earlier, and there's a protest being held in town. Now, this is taking place in what appears to be some small town in Oregon, and there are Native American protesters who are opposing the expansion of this university because it builds onto, I guess it spills into the town, and I don't know, they don't like it.
100% clear on what the university is doing with the expansion because it's very focused on the archaeology department. We're not sure why they want to take over the town, but we do know it is related to university in some capacity.
Yeah. So the movie tells you that, in the way they give this exposition is these protesters have already been informed about the expansion of the school and the construction, have been offered a sum. They signed and accepted this, but then a couple days later have come back and said, never mind, we don't want the money, we'll give it back to you. You guys are in the middle of construction, you have to stop now.
Both of these people didn't even know what they were signing. We can give you back your money.
You can't blame me if they didn't read it. Just get off my land.
I don't know what the point of that was.
Yeah.
What was the point of showing that they took the money, changed their mind? Why not just start the movie with them basically already agreed with the city? Like, the city's already said, like, yeah, these people can come in and do this, and then they're protesting, saying, no, we don't like it.
Basically,
what was the point?
Well, and I agree. I think it's incredibly weird, the fact that they set up and very explicitly tell you that they sold the land, they had buyer or seller's remorse, and they want the land back after construction has started. Because it seems to be an opening centered around the old racist adage, Indian giver, because they literally set it up in a way that is almost like what if you were born between, like, say 1957 and 1974, you heard people explain happened in the beginning of the United States, which is where we came in and we bought land from the natives, and then they felt guilty or they felt remorseful and they wanted it back, so we fought, which was not how anything happened. So it seems like it's someone trying to be like, this is a pattern here, and without saying this is a pattern here.
It's just a weird, unnecessary detail that does nothing for the story, except... Actually, no, it does absolutely nothing for the story.
We even gave them a generous buyout, which they cashed in almost immediately.
You meet Dakota, who's the resistance.
If we don't protect this land, nobody will.
And I want to mention the sheriff here, okay? Jake, He is the nephew of Dakota, the Native American who's leading this protest. Jake is the sheriff. Now, if you're watching this, you might notice some similarities here. Something familiar, right? And I began to notice this when we were watching it. The way that the sheriff kind of walks around and how his attitude is and how he talks to people. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was like, wait a minute, this guy kind of reminds me of like the sheriff from Eureka, that sci-fi show about the town that was like sealed off or whatever, and all this weird stuff kept happening. He kind of reminded me of the sheriff. He even looked a little bit like the sheriff, but it was like, what was the point of that? Come to find out, guys, the man who played the sheriff in Eureka, Collin Ferguson, he's the director of this movie. It's weird.
It feels like it's Eureka fan fiction.
Yeah.
And which I was not a fan of the show Eureka, which might have been part of my opinion about why this movie just didn't seem to flow right. But then we immediately jump to a scene which is happening in the evening time or at night, where we see a young couple going to a frat party. Why don't you tell us who the female half of this young couple is?
I'll get right to that. This can opener is not cooperating, so I'm having to, yeah. Anyway, so the couple, you may notice there's a familiar face there, which is actually why we chose this movie to be our episode for this month, because there's a Emilia Clarke is in this movie. Savannah Roundtree. Savannah Roundtree is 1/4 Native American. Emilia Clarke is not.
Nice beads, very authentic.
Thanks. I'm a quarter Native American.
The character Savannah is inconsequential, but the fact that that she's played by Emilia Clarke is really the best thing about this movie.
It's the biggest, best, and only redeeming quality in this movie.
This is so stupid.
I'm gonna add in the ham at this point.
Does that mean I get to add in the carrots?
It does mean you get to add in the carrots.
Do I go first? Can I go first?
You can go first.
This is the one part where I get to learn something. She's the brains behind these cuisines, and I am but a humble spectator who gets to tag along for the ride. So
you have a couple of really good dishes that I really think
Really?
I hope we get to do. Especially when you do crepes. That's actually one of my favorite things you do that I hope we can find a movie.
Well,
so
that's nice to hear.
if you are watching this and you know of a good crepe themed B movie, let us know, because we're sort of contractually obligated by telling you in the beginning we like to watch B movies and cook to watch it. And I would love to make some sort of crepe dish centered around some sort of terrible Parisian-ish movie.
How can you turn your back on us? Let these rich snobs take away our family's history.
You sell rubber tomahawks.
What is happening with Dakota?
So Dakota Roundtree, the anti-hero. He decides, you know what? No, I'm not gonna stand for this. He goes into his gift shop, starts wrecking everything because he's mad, and then he gets the idea, wait a minute, I know what I'm gonna do. I'll show these guys. I'm gonna open up a tome, starts doing some chanting, burning a little fire, all inside the gift shop museum. So we begin to see all of the dinosaur bones inside the museum. All the full skeletal structures start to become possessed by some sort of evil power. Also, a detail to point out here, for those of you that don't know, that go into any kind of natural history museum, and you see the big skeletal structures of like the Brontosaurus and the T-Rex, most of that, actually all of that, is made of something called plaster. And the real bones are kept locked away in like an archive.
They're not as heavy as bones.
They're not as heavy.
And they're also not as valuable.
Yeah.
And the reason they don't put actual bone artifacts out are because stupid kids touch things.
these bones come to life. Dakota runs out of the museum, freaking out. Cut to the next character,
Yeah.
which is our funny comedic relief, Wyatt.
Oh man, my CDs! Oh! Whoa, fire! I got it!
I don't know why this character exists.
The character exists specifically to fill roles that need to be filled in the movie. They need comic relief. He's there. They need somebody to learn about the dinosaurs. He's there. They need somebody to operate heavy machinery. He's there. So it's a character that specifically addresses when they reach a hole in the storytelling. And the characters originally in the movie. It's not like they realized they had plot holes and had to fill in scenes.
Yeah, it's just...
The character was meant to be in the movie, but he's a human MacGuffin. He literally is just leading them from one thing about the dinosaurs to the next. He just fills in the blanks as far as the fossils attacking the town. They cut to the next day where Emilia Clarke's character, Savannah, is talking with her mother, Emma, and we had seen the night before she gets grounded for dating a college guy and attending frat parties. She begs her mother to let her go on a camping trip with the fraternity, which, if you've ever watched the news, seems like a bad idea.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, I can show you my teepee.
Here you go.
Emma, with her A+ parenting skills, just lets her go. And she's like, bye. And then that scene ends. And so it's literally, they just have all these little tiny chopped up scenes whose only point is to get them, all the characters, in a place where the dinosaurs can attack them without logically telling a story about why they would be there.
So this is basically where the movie peaks in terms of what it has to tell you. The next rest of the movie basically is random college kids and people getting attacked, killed by these bone dinosaurs. One of them is a pterodactyl, by the way, which requires skin canvas, to fly.
This is kind of the point of the movie where the story stops.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to rely heavily on the visual effects. And this is the point where you realize this movie doesn't have good enough visual effects to lean on a visual effects climax.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was replaying in my head the things that happen. By this point, nobody really knows what's going on or why this is happening. But they just start to see this stuff happen, and they're like, "Okay, oh my god!" And so, marveling at the visuals here for a moment, a T-Rex that eats the fraternity lead guy,
the 30-year-old
frat boy. It eats him, and they make a point to show that he falls out from behind the mouth because it's just bones. At one point, we have Emma and Jake realize that Savannah is not where Jake thought she was. Emma's like, "Hey, I actually, said she could go on this camping trip. I know you grounded her. We're both bad parents. Great." Savannah and Matt, wherever they're at this camping trip. So Savannah's like, "Oh my god, my clothes. We left my clothes."
Well, no, what happens is she's worried about her parents because dinosaurs are attacking. They're swimming in the lake, and she gets her clothes, but she drops her phone in the lake. Or Matt drops her phone in the lake.
No, they don't drop the phone. They don't drop the phone. They make a point to show this. They're running away. I left my clothes. I don't know why they wouldn't want to show more of Emilia Clarke running around in her bikini, but whatever. So Matt goes back and gets their clothes, as they're hiding from the T-Rex skeleton, but they make a point to show that they leave the cell phone. The priority was to go get the clothes, not the cell phone to stay in communication and call for help.
So instead of calling her parents and finding out where they're at, she runs with Matt to go find her parents. Meanwhile, as they're leaving, her parents pull up and the dinosaurs left, and they see this just monstrous scene with spirit Halloween legs everywhere, and arms, and the fakest of fake arms and legs you could get from any Halloween store.
Yeah. So she begins to notice, wait a minute, this looks like a dinosaur track. I mean, I don't know what else to say, Jake. You can't fake this.
You can't fake this.
So what are you saying?
Good news to every Bigfoot enthusiast out there. You can't fake track impressions.
You can't fake this.
And you have Matt and Savannah who are driving in one direction, and you have Emma and Jake who are driving in another direction, and they're looking for each other, but they're looking in completely different places.
Kind of like An American Tail, except nothing like An American Tail. So, Triassic Attack, what's happened so far? College wants to expand its campus. That's bad. British man bad. Native Americans who live in that community say, no, we don't want that, even though we already took your money and said we wanted that and we were cool with it, we changed our mind. Good cop sheriff who's a bad dad is in the middle of a divorce with his soon-to-be ex-wife, Emma, who is an archaeologist who's dating the British man who is orchestrating the construction of this school. Weird triangle there. Emilia Clarke is not Native American, but plays one. And she's in the middle of all this. Uncle Dakota is casting spells, summoning dinosaur bones to fight the construction of this school because he doesn't like it. He can't control the dinosaur bones. They're going crazy, killing everybody. So, from this point, I say let's let the rest of that stuff cook, and we'll continue with our conclusion, our climactic conclusion.
So yeah, we finished the soup. Everything looks good. Why don't you have a little taste and tell me how it is?
Okay, I will have a taste and tell you how it is. Oh man.
Just right.
No, that's not joking. That is just right. Really great. There's a lot of really amazing flavor in there. Like, you've got that heartiness from the meat and the bone that's just in the juice. It doesn't feel like it's sitting on top of the juice, you know what I mean? Like
Broth.
the broth. I don't know words. But it doesn't feel like it's just sitting on top, like you just threw it in there. It really feels like it's a part of the broth. The vegetables are a great accent.
Well, and that's the difference, I think. Again, like we mentioned earlier on, this soup can be done two ways. The first is the dump soup, which is where you take all of your vegetables in cans and you dump them right in. And I think the biggest difference is when you do it with fresh vegetables, the layer of flavors really does come through, and it shines through in a way that you understand what each vegetable is. It's not just a menagerie of flavor forced together.
I'm sorry, it's really good. Like,
So you gave us a quick recap of the movie.
yeah. So
Obviously, the recap makes it sound like not a lot happened in the movie. And this is, I think, for me, the flaw of this movie, is that it does rely a lot on the visuals, which aren't good enough to be what the story relies on. The fact that they circle back around to the opening again, and they're trying to outrun the raptor. And what's the first thing they do after they escape? They think, oh, we've got to get help because we are not qualified to deal with this. So who do they call?
I don't know why it took them this long to call for help.
Oh, the minute I found, if I had been the sheriff in that town, the minute I found a beach full of dead teenagers, my first call would have been like the FBI or the National Guard or something. But it is when he does realize the help he needs, it's who he calls that's most shocking.
The ROTC.
The ROTC at the local high school.
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Chef Roundtree. I need to speak to Major Palmer ASAP.
Major Palmer's in Seattle. Mariners opening day.
Well, who's in charge?
Guess that'd be me, sir. Corporal Lance Johnson at your service.
And it says, bring tanks, bring whatever, bring all the firepower. And you're thinking, like, this is gonna be a joke. The kid's gonna be like, sir, we're the ROTC. No, the ROTC shows up where they think the dinosaurs are going, and thank God they guessed correctly. But they show up at the museum, the actual, or the university.
The university.
And so the ROTC faces off against dinosaurs with rocket launchers at the university.
Bazookas that they claim that they've only used before in video games.
You ever shot one?
Yes. Only in video game.
They show up at the museum because they somehow know the dinosaurs are going to be there. The dinosaurs show up at the unveiling of the new museum expansion. Everybody starts freaking out. The British guy is like, oh my god, what's going on here? Dinosaurs. I'm going to hide behind a bookshelf.
But there's two things that happen that I think are very important that we forgot to mention, and that is one, Jake's Jeep doesn't start.
It's always breaking down.
It's always breaking down. But then also too, when they're having trouble starting the Jeep, that's when they have to get out and run. But they get it started just long enough to smash through the Raptor at one point, and they break it to pieces. And all of a sudden, all the bones, come back together, and they reorganize into the Raptor, and the Raptor keeps chasing them. I think that's pretty pertinent information they should have been sharing with the ROTC. Like, don't blow them up; they're just going to come back together.
Yep. Nope. They don't.
But they don't tell anyone this. And so the first thing Jake does is, when he gets there, is he goes and meets up with the ROTC, and he grabs a rocket launcher, and he blows up the T-Rex, and he blows up the pterodactyl.
This is like, if you didn't think the danger could get any greater than it is now, behold.
Corporal, get out of there!
It's like a dragon, basically. Yeah. At this point, they realize they should call the National Guard. Not the first time.
So
now that the teenagers couldn't.
Now that they've made it worse,
it's time to call the National Guard. In the meantime, they get a phone call finally from Savannah, finding out that she has met up with Dakota, and she and Matt are back at the museum, and they're going to try and do another ritual to stop the dinosaurs.
The tome talks about there's like a storm you can summon to like stop the evil and send it back or whatever.
Basically, like lightning will stop the dinosaurs.
We've learned that lightning can kill plaster bone animated dinosaurs. This is great news.
It really is. And they get out and they start to do the most stereotypical 1950s Western version of a rain dance. And Emilia Clarke is doing the vocal portion, and it rains. And I guess this summons the big dinosaur, who was previously like all tied up trying to kill everybody at the museum.
Yeah. And
then instead of staying there and killing everybody he's supposed to, the rain dance summons him, so he lands in the rain in front of him and knocks out Dakota, and it ends the chant that he's doing. And then they're all in danger, and
then it just flies away.
It just flies away, and we don't know what happened to it at that point. And about that time, Jake and Wyatt get there. Wyatt produces this amazing thought process. Well, electricity is just lightning harnessed.
It's just electricity, right? So if we can get a big enough charge, maybe that'll have the same effect.
We can break into the transformers from the power company.
Because he used to work there. He worked there.
Which has never been previously mentioned.
But he then conveys all this.
I used to work here for 8 years, until I got laid off a while back. It's all good though, really let me chase my dreams.
Which was basically, as we see at the beginning of the movie, owning the world's largest light bulb collection, which is some sort of tourist joke trap that he...
Maybe? I mean, we don't even know.
Maybe it was.
Again, he provides information to fill in a plot hole in the movie.
Yeah.
Because they had enough wherewithal when writing this movie to realize none of these people know how to use a blah, blah, blah.
But Wyatt does to get the dinosaur back there. They're going to do the same
they do
thing.
The same chant.
Savannah is now taking it upon herself.
She is going to be the new medicine man.
She's gonna do the ritual. She is ready.
I'll do it. I'll perform the ritual and I'll lure it in.
No, I'll do it.
No offense, Daddy, but you don't exactly know what you're doing.
She knows, even though she didn't seem to know then, she didn't seem to talk about it the rest of the movie. She knows that she can do the ritual, and she's like, I'm gonna do it, and she gets her dad on board, even though he doesn't believe in magic, and she gets, I think, her mom on board, because she shows up randomly, because she can't stay away for 5 seconds.
The gang's all here. We're gonna stop the
We're
threat.
gonna stop the threat. And they get there, and the dinosaur cuts the wire, and Wyatt saves the day by electrocuting the dinosaur, which means that the ritual meant nothing.
No, the ritual made it rain. That's what it did.
But the ritual, like, if they needed just lightning to kill the dinosaur,
It's gotta be wet. Gotta be wet.
I
Gotta
mean,
be wet
literally,
dinosaur.
They cut out the need for the ritual apart from just rain.
Make it rain.
Like,
Make it
they
rain.
could use a garden hose and an electric, like, and Wyatt's big
You know,
stun gun
in
from the
theory,
beginning.
look,
They didn't need all of the magic.
maybe not. Somehow they all get wet too, but the area of electricity that they charged only affects the dinosaur bones.
Only the dinosaur.
So
maybe that's what the ritual's for.
you can kill it-
protecting you from lightning. The dinosaurs.
If it was, they didn't mention. So they summon the storm, the rain, the dino comes, they electrocute it, and all the bones fly apart. But I guess because this time they flew apart from lightning, somehow that means
They stay
magic
apart,
is
yeah.
they stay that way. Because electricity, as we all know, is magic. It's like science magic. Because we don't really know how it works, right? Except we do.
Magic is just science we don't understand yet.
There you go. Oh, wait a minute. There's still one dinosaur running around. It shows up there, and then they
It's like they
electrocute it.
forget
and it's-
that they had a loose end
Yeah.
they had to tie
Oh,
up.
shit. Send the raptor back.
And,
They blow
yeah.
that one up.
And then it just ends. Like, that's just, well, it doesn't just end there. But that's just like, the threat's over.
The threat's over,
and no one gets in trouble. Like, Dakota should have gone to
Right.
jail because essentially her
He
murder
killed
half
people.
the town.
Dakota killed people after the dinos have been destroyed. It's the next day or sometime later. It's bright and sunny out. Dakota's at the ribbon cutting ceremony, opening the new.
He gets honored. They give him back his museum. No, they don't say what happened to the rest of the town. 'Cause screw those guys.
They don't. They just
But-
go back to the museum. Everything's fine. The family's all here. Cut the ribbon with Dakota and Savannah.
Jake and Emma get back together.
And that's it. That's the movie. Triassic Attack.
It's really, to me, a masterpiece of modern cinema. And when I say that, I'm lying.
I can get it. I can do it. Oh, man. Hang on. I almost got it. You can eat that. So, dumb movie, bad movie. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry right there. But it's fun. It's fun to watch.
It is fun. And I will say, there were times in certain parts of the movie that I wasn't making fun of it.
Yeah.
Like,
That's weird because I had that too.
I wasn't taking it seriously, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Like.
And I will always stand by that. I will never take this movie seriously as a piece of sci-fi cinema. However, I really did enjoy it from the standpoint that it was fun, it was silly, and I could see, again, we talked earlier about the fact that it was directed by the main character from Eureka. It really did feel like a really long episode of Eureka.
That's why, yeah, I think that's why it was fun to watch eventually, because you sort of forget for a minute that this is a movie. And it just, because it looked, the way it's shot and the way it's edited, it feels like a TV production. Like a cheap TV production. And what you end up seeing is like, it does feel like a Eureka episode. Like just a really long one. And I remember thinking that when we were watching, I'm like, this feels like an episode of Eureka. Even the sheriff, the way he
carries himself. The shape of his head, and it becomes a point where you don't hate the movie. The first time I watched it, I was bitter afterwards.
Yeah.
I was like, why did you make me watch this?
Yeah.
And the second time we watched it, specifically for the episode, I didn't hate it. And I think it was because we had done the research at this point. We had looked into it. And there was a new lens to look at it through. It wasn't just somebody thinking they could make a movie and then failing at it. It was somebody that is accustomed to a completely different way of producing media. Because television and film are two different styles of writing, two different styles of shooting. Your SFX team is a lot different. You can get away with a lot less. Versus a movie, even a made-for-TV movie, you are expected to front a little more. And you're expected to tell a better story. And so looking at it with the lens that this is a group of people that are used to one version of media and they're attempting something else, it is a great first try.
That is certainly a way to put it.
And we can always really take into account too that this is a great launching pad for Emilia Clarke, because if she had done maybe a teen movie or maybe a little higher grossing B movie, she may not have had the desire to sign on for a larger project like Game of Thrones. And I honestly can't think of anyone better to play Daenerys Targaryen than Emilia Clarke. And that may just be because I've sat with it now for almost a decade.
But look at Triassic Attack. Dino bones that
It's
can
true,
fly.
they did make a dragon in the end of it.
There's a dragon there.
I guess that's pretty much all we have to say about it. We've gone through the whole movie. We've gone through a whole bowl or two of soup. And I think I don't have anything else to say.
I do want to say thank you for watching.
Absolutely.
This has been Good Eats Bad Flicks. I'm William. That's my wife Hannah. She's a great cook. If you want to try this recipe yourself, check it out in the description. We've got all the ingredients listed and what to do there. Maybe you'll, let us know in the comments if you make something different, or dare I say better. I think it'd be high praise to say anything close to that.
We always challenge people.
Yeah,
I always want
but
them to do better.
play with the recipe, see what you get out of it, watch the movie, see what you think.
Be sure that you like and subscribe.
Yeah.
And if you want to read a more in-depth, or I don't know, maybe not more in-depth, but maybe a more literary synopsis of what we thought of the movie, our notes will be available on our website, and you can find the link to that below in the description, as well as the link for the recipe.
A toast to bad movies, good food.
Emilia Clarke.
Emilia Clarke.
And the last season of Game of Thrones.
And the last season of Game of Thrones. Cheers.